When she joined the Obama administration, she was Special Assistant to the President and Senior Director for European Affairs at the National Security Council. She also served the White House as Coordinator for Defense Policy, countering weapons of mass destruction and arms control. So definitely a very strong on the security side as well. Before she actually joined the administration, she worked at Stanford University, at Harvard University, and at the Council of Foreign Relations. She also served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia, Ukraine, and Eurasia. She does have degrees from Harvard and a graduate school degree at Oxford University. So with that, I'd like to welcome Deputy Elizabeth Sherwood-Randall.
I'm Liz. It's very nice to be here with you today. And Brandon, thank you for the warm welcome. I actually flew down from Washington last night just to talk to you this morning because this agenda is so important to us. And our partnership with the oil and gas sector is so important in our endeavor to build a more responsive, secure, and resilient energy grid in our country. So I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak with you here today. Thank you, Caitlin, and your team at DHS for all that you do as our partners inside the federal government in this effort. As you all know, the Department of Energy is the day-to-day coordinator with industry on matters of security, resilience, incident response, and planning. In government speak, in the verbiage of the bureaucracy, we are called the sector-specific agency for the energy sector. And we work with a number of stakeholders at the federal, state, and local level, and with tribal governments as well. We coordinate closely with other agencies, and I have to say, most importantly, we coordinate with our private sector partners because so much of the infrastructure, indeed 90% of the infrastructure that we have to protect and keep operational, no matter what happens, is in the private sector. That statistic, the 90% of the infrastructure in private hands, really surprised me when I became deputy. And that meant that, and it means that we cannot do it alone, that although the people expect the government to keep the power on, we can't keep it on without you. And this strong partnership that we're trying to build, a new model really of cooperation between government and the private sector, is absolutely crucial to ensuring that we can meet the challenges that we face, challenges that are both natural and man-made, to ensure that our energy infrastructure is secure and resilient. So I'd like to talk about 3 areas in which we can develop and strengthen this vital partnership between us. First is the progress that we are making in implementing the important recommendations that came out of the National Petroleum Council study. I noticed that it was available to people outside in case you don't have a copy of it. This is an excellent study that has in it some vital recommendations, some valuable recommendations, which I encourage people to see if they have not already. Second, I want to talk about the partnering that is essential to our success in addressing the cybersecurity challenges that we face, that Brandon noted. And third, I want to talk about the work that we're doing specifically with the Oil and Natural Gas Subsector Coordinating Council and the need for enhanced partnership with the Electricity Subsector Coordinating Council. So first on implementing the NPC study. This study was requested by Secretary Moniz. The NPC, as most of you probably know, is an advisory council to the Secretary of Energy. In December, Secretary Moniz and I met with the NPC leadership to discuss this study that they had produced at his request and its 7 key recommendations. It was a remarkable effort, and there I want to especially express our appreciation to Keith Robeson of Marathon Petroleum. Is he here today? Yes. Hello, Keith. And to thank you and your team at the NPC for all that you did in producing such an excellent report. It answered some basic questions about the vulnerabilities and gaps within the oil and natural gas industry and identified key interdependencies with the larger energy sector. And most important, it provided very useful recommendations for us in thinking about how we need to enhance our coordination and communication between the Department of Energy and industry in improving our collective emergency preparedness and response capabilities. And we're now working diligently to implement these recommendations. First of all, we are harmonizing our emergency response structure with industry best practices. That's taken some time and effort. That's leading the charge on that front, and we're getting there. Second, we're leveraging expertise within our Energy Information Administration to enhance our understanding of supply chains. Third, we are improving how we communicate between industry and all levels of government. I have to say that's an ongoing challenge, which we have to continue our efforts to meet. Fourth, we're evaluating how we engage in energy assurance planning in the face of continuing and evolving threats. And finally, we're enhancing our education, training, and exercise programs to better prepare for emergencies. Pat is going to go into more detail on these efforts later today with you, but I want to highlight two particular improvements that we have made thus far. First, I have directed the establishment of a unified command structure and a consolidated emergency operations center at our headquarters building in Washington. We know that that is a best practice. I know that also from my national security background. And I found when I came to the department that that did not yet exist, and it was creating an impediment to our effective response, also creating a challenge for those who wanted to interface with us from other agencies in the private sector. So we are building that capability today. This new command structure and operations center will better prepare us to respond to a variety of incidents in a coordinated and unified fashion. And it will give our partners in other agencies of the government, state and local entities, and also the private sector, a single point of entry into the Department of Energy for emergencies, which we know you've asked for repeatedly. We are counting on your partnership to make the most of these changes. You are the ones who know your communities and your customers, and you know how they will be affected by a disaster. We ask that you use that knowledge and expertise to work with us and our partners in the rest of the energy sector to prepare for disasters, because we don't want to invent the emergency response process each time there is a major energy disruption. We had that experience during Superstorm Sandy when I was at the White House, and my predecessor, Dan Kahneman, had to build at the President's request what we are now trying to establish as an organization in place to respond in the case of future emergencies. So Pat and her team are here. They'll be here throughout the day and want to be available to you now and in the future as a resource so that we can strengthen our capabilities to be responsive when a disaster strikes. Second, and relatedly, I want to underscore the premium that we put on emergency preparedness exercises. Again, drawing on my national security background, I know that exercises, and I look to the Coast Guard colleagues here who will resonate with this, we know from exercising, every time we exercise, we discover vulnerabilities and gaps. And so the more we can do to exercise before a crisis, the better prepared we will be when one presents itself. The storms like Sandy, Katrina, and Rita taught us how interconnected and vulnerable our energy systems are, and how important national-level emergency preparedness exercises working with industry are. We know that Katrina and Rita downed 85,000 utility poles, 800 utility substations, and thousands of miles of transmission lines. And on the worst day of these sequential events, the nation lost almost 30% of its refining capacity. This morning I had breakfast with the mayor of Houston, and she talked to me about how her number one concern is resilience here in this area, and how the infrastructure is not really prepared for some of the extreme weather events or potentially adversarial actions that could reduce the capability of this community to support the nation. And 3 weeks after Rita hit, markets were still short 2 million barrels per day. Now, right now, we feel there's a great abundance of supply, so that doesn't seem like a huge risk, but we know that there are ups and downs over time, and so we can't just sit comfortably while we experience this period of abundant supply. Power outages from Katrina also caused the complete shutdown of 3 major pipelines for 2 days and forced them to operate at reduced capacities for weeks. So just to reiterate, I'm a big believer in exercises and know that we will benefit from doing more together. The oil and natural gas sector is known for its exercises, and we want to build off your efforts and the lessons you've learned by participating in the exercises that you are running as much as possible, and ask you to join with us as well. By early 2016, I've asked that we conduct a joint tabletop exercise with executive leadership from the electric, oil, and natural gas sectors. I want to underscore that because we do a lot of exercising with the electricity subsector at the leadership level. We haven't yet done that, bringing in the leadership of the oil and gas sector in a combined exercise with government and leadership from those 2 sectors. This will look at the interdependencies and cooperation between the electricity and the oil and natural gas sectors in terms of emergency response. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to travel to Florida to participate in the Florida Power and Light Company's annual hurricane exercise. And it was a major week-long effort that included the deployment of 3,000 employees across the state and simulated power outages to 1.7 million people. Several of the key takeaways from that experience included the importance of using non-technical language when we are communicating with the public, and that was a big translational issue, and one that creates new requirements for us because of the expectation that people have for instant communications because of the ubiquity of social media. And second is the need for the state-of-the-art damage assessment tools that prioritize restoration efforts. The oil and gas sector is already using some of these. We're trying to ensure that they can be used in the electricity sector as well. These tools can both predict where severe damage may occur ahead of time and also help prioritize rapid response by federal, state, and local responders during a disaster. So I look forward to working with the entire energy sector on exercises like the one that was held at FPL in the coming year. They're a key part of how we'll prepare and how we'll be able to respond. And Devin Strait, a member of our team as well, raise your hand, Devin, new to this community, is leading our infrastructure security and energy resilience team, and will be working with me to coordinate additional exercises. And so we are very eager to partner with you going forward on that front. I'll move on to the second subject, and the one that Brandon noted is such a growth industry for all of us, and that is the requirement to address cybersecurity concerns across the sector. This is a challenge that requires close partnerships. In our department, I chair our Cyber Council, and we play 2 critical roles in that regard. One is I'm responsible for ensuring that our entire department, which is a vast and dispersed enterprise of headquarters and national laboratories and sites spread across our country, 115,000 people, that we ensure our cybersecurity as a department, but we also have responsibility for providing the resources in cybersecurity that are generated by the extraordinary research capabilities of our national laboratories to the benefit of the American people. And there what we're trying to do is push out as quickly as possible the kinds of capabilities that we all need to ensure that we remain strong against the emerging, evolving, very dynamic threats in this sector. Last year, the DHS ICS CERT team responded to 245 cyber-related incidents. Of those responses, I understand that 1/3 were in the energy sector. So that just gives a sense of how intensive the focus has to be on our shared responsibilities. As your sector-specific agency, we are working very hard to expand the work we do together in this domain. Ongoing areas in our partnership include identifying and promoting best practices that energy companies can use, regardless of their size, to protect their systems. Here, the two most notable efforts include the administration's cybersecurity framework and the cybersecurity capability maturity model, or what we call C2M2. The cybersecurity framework is a voluntary guide for the critical infrastructure community that was published following a year-long collaboration that was a public-private sector effort led by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, as you know. DOE has since published implementation guidance to assist the energy sector, which is a model for other sectors. We're eager to engage the oil and gas sector to explore implementing C2M2 within your sector. This framework helps asset owners determine a cybersecurity baseline that can assist strategic planning for cybersecurity investments. In addition, as I noted, we are committed as a department to cybersecurity research. For the past 5 years, we've invested more than $150 million in collaborative cybersecurity research and development projects across industries, universities, and our national labs. Many of these projects are deployed now in the energy sector and are successfully helping to reduce the risk of cyber incidents. You'll hear more about this work later from Carol Hawk. Our national labs are powerful partners to work with you on these challenging issues in cybersecurity for control systems, which is an area of particular vulnerability that I'm focused on. Some examples of lab capabilities that we have that can add value to your efforts include, for example, our Idaho National Lab, where we have a full-scale control system test bed. INL can perform real-world control system tests and attacks to help reduce vulnerabilities associated with these systems. It's home to our ICS CERT team. Oak Ridge National Lab in Tennessee is another place that's doing considerable cyber research in cyber, including supply chain security for critical infrastructure, such as auditing systems to prevent tampering and automated malware detection. Our Pacific Northwest National Lab in Washington State uses multidisciplinary teams to enable resilient infrastructures through research in cyber analytics, bio-inspired security work, and cyber physical systems. I was just there visiting them. They're doing really path-breaking work in this domain. And Sandia National Lab in both Albuquerque and in the Bay Area has unparalleled capability in this domain and provides government and industry customers an independent and objective view of their weaknesses from a range of adversaries' perspectives. I just want to say here, one of the things we're doing as a department is bringing all of those capabilities together in an organized way so that you don't have to go out individually to each of them, but we work with them to figure out how to deploy these capabilities effectively in support of industry in an integrated fashion. So we look forward to working together with you if you see that this would be beneficial. Finally, I noted I wanted to talk about expanding our work with your coordinating council. I understand from my experience of the last 11 months about the challenges and constraints that this particular industry faces, such as the close competition, antitrust issues, and regulatory challenges that can create obstacles to working together. However, when it comes to emergency preparedness and cybersecurity, I'm confident we can find ways to work together and that we need to do so to ensure that our nation's infrastructure is secure and resilient. So looking ahead to the rest of the year and into 2016, we're focused on a number of priorities. First of all, in addition to working on the joint disaster exercises with industry that follow through on our commitment in the NPC study, we're also focused on implementing the recommendations of our quadrennial energy review that the Department of Energy was the executive agent for the federal government, and that was published in April of this year. Jonathan Pershing from our Office of Energy Policy and Systems Analysis will be speaking with you this afternoon in more detail about the QER. But because it's such an important document and will have such far-reaching impacts on our entire energy system, I wanted to take a few minutes this morning to highlight a few key dimensions. The QER was actually a monumental effort that included the White House and our entire interagency team, 22 agencies across the federal government. The QER notes the imperative of working together with industry to modernize our energy infrastructure to promote economic competitiveness as well as ensure energy security. And it included very specific recommendations for the oil and gas industry. For instance, it recommended that a competitive program be established to accelerate pipeline replacement and enhance maintenance programs for natural gas distribution systems. It also called for additional investments in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to improve emergency response capabilities. We're currently looking at these and other recommendations and working with Congress and industry to identify the resources that will be needed for implementation of these recommendations. If you haven't already, I encourage you to engage with Jonathan Pershing on these important recommendations. We need your knowledge and we need your hands-on experience to ensure that as a team, we effectively secure our nation's energy infrastructure. Finally, I want to thank you all for your partnership, and in particular, I look forward to working with Brandon and others here, Kathy Judge as well, in strengthening the work we do together. I'm looking forward to listening to the discussion this morning and learning from it, and identifying new ways in which we can enhance our work across this vital sector. We know that this sector is literally essential to keeping America running. And so we have a great burden of responsibility that motivates us all to move forward together. Thank you for letting me address you this morning, and I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. A couple thoughts that crossed my mind as you were speaking. I've mentioned from time to time, so focus, of course, today is going to be cyber and that threat. But we shouldn't, BP specifically has not forgotten that just a couple of years ago that we lost production and 40 lives in Algeria, the old-fashioned way, with Kalashnikovs and pickup trucks. And so those traditional security threats remain, to include the natural disasters, right? And so agree that collaborating and working together, industry and government, to better respond. And the NPC study that Pete knows so much about kind of lays out that path forward. Those are threats we've seen. I mean, we don't traditionally talk about a storm as a threat, but it clearly has very powerful, disruptive properties to it. And so, while the focus and the topic, like I say, du jour is cyber, the old-fashioned threat of terrorism, etc., affects our industry today. And then, of course, natural disasters will continue to be forefront in our minds because we've seen those and we've seen how disruptive they are.
It's my understanding that you're working to make the ISAC for your sector one that is working in the same way that ours is working for the electricity sector, and that is to have a vehicle for quickly disseminating threat information back and forth. Is that accurate? And I would just underscore how urgent that is, to pick up on your point. We have been working, we have a number of our CEOs who are cleared. They come in for threat briefings when we do our electricity sector coordinating council meetings. This is a very important element, again, going forward, to figure out how we do this in a way that allows us in real time to communicate both you see something on your systems about the cyber threat and you communicate it to others. That's disseminated across all those who need to know, and vice versa. When we see something in our classified space, that we're able to get it out appropriately to those who may be threatened or vulnerable. And that is a continuing project. It's hard to do. It crosses over lots of firewalls, but we've got to make it happen. I know you've just hired someone who comes out of the intelligence community who's a tremendous asset to you, someone who worked with me at the White House to help on this.
Yeah, so quickly to the point, so the reason that we wanted to highlight the progress that we made on the ISAC is I knew that was important. It actually became more apparent to me when I met with you, Caitlin, just last month, as we talked about funneling information. At that time we're speaking specifically about the cyber threat. The ISAC and the ability to disseminate information to a broad community of operators in the oil and gas industry That happens to be the hence we are going to have a presentation to talk about that. And then I would conclude on a couple of your remarks as it relates to cyber. One of the things that we hope you'll see is that some of us very much are using the resources the federal government is providing as it relates to ISC CERT, national labs in Idaho, et cetera, et cetera. And you should get a feel for that today. That doesn't mean that everybody's using them that way, but this is a maturity model, right? And the idea is that we, progress line upon line, and all of us get better. Some of us need more advanced than others. And I think you get a little bit of a feel for that. Any comments, Patricia or Caitlin, before we move on? Okay.